But it is not only about large projects, or it is not only about innovation. It is also a lot. EIT Health is also about business creation, and that part is we can show you on the next slide. So on the business creation front, uh, there is a set of opportunities for different for teams and companies to engage, depending on where they are in their basically in their life cycle, in their journey. So there are definitely opportunities at the incubate stage, very early stage, things that we can, we can do almost after we finish innovation day. So really move into that. But there are also opportunities further along for companies that are established in one market but want to enter different markets as well, or they want to access, I would say, a very large investment. And they're really the EIT Health prides itself on being able, I would say, to follow and to support a company through to several points on its journey, and really looking to find this mix of whether it's the services and funding and networking that will help it grow. One example that we have, and on the next slide, so we can switch, is this InnoStars Awards, which is open to our companies as well. So companies that are pre-market, so they have not received revenue from the market. The idea is that you get an opportunity um, to network, but also to get this, I would say, coaching and training in business development to allow you to present yourself to the investors. We have in this year's InnoStars Awards, we have a Croatian contender. So this is a local company that is doing very well, and it's actually entering a finale. Finale is going to be next week, and it is very cleverly done because the finale is linked to this major industry conference. So in addition to having this, in addition to getting awards, you are actually getting a chance to network with investors and with potential buyers. And this is something definitely, again, another opportunity that we can use after the innovation day. But we have to get first, if we don't have necessarily a solution, or we know that we are interested in healthcare, but we are not quite sure where to start. We realize there are a lot of issues, but how should we tackle them? Then definitely we are starting. You're in the right place, because we are here, running this competition event, this ideation event as a part to help you do this. And the Innovation Day is basically a pan-European competition that is started, that has first phase in a local setting. So in cities all over Europe, this year it will be 34 cities, and you can see how many people and how many students are participating from all over Europe. And what happens in those Innovation Days basically is that at every single location you have a very similar I would say, setup. It is a chance to basically tackle real life problems and real life issues in a way that when you form multidisciplinary teams who are then guided by coaches through certain methodology that helps you, I would say, focus your thinking. But it doesn't stop there. It really goes further, and it's a chance to also interact with end users, to with people who need the solutions that you are trying to build, and who will then tell you, what do they think they need, how they feel about different things, and so on and so forth. And we can, I think, move forward at what's happening at the i-Day. And the question, and we can actually move to the next slide as well. So the question is, why attend? And there are different reasons, of course, and maybe the first and obvious one, there are some prizes and opportunities involved. So for the winning team, there is a chance to participate in a winners event, and I think you have to press it to show this the full slide. So for the winners team, there is a chance to participate in the winners event, which is European level winners event. So teams from all these locations that have won are then competing together and presenting together and networking together. And there is a chance to take part in the EIT Health Summit. What we have done locally, so here in Zagreb, we have created additional awards that will be given to 3 teams, so not just to 1 team, to 3 top-ranking teams. And that we are going to organize a local demo day. That will be a chance, again, a new chance to connect with investors and partners. We have also arranged business coaching for you. So it's the people who will be supporting to Innovation Day. They will also be supporting you after the Innovation Day for you to polish up your idea and your presentation and to see what is the best way forward. And of course, there are some very straightforward prizes, such as store vouchers, which I can't go into detail as yet, but you will find out very soon. In addition to that, of course, there is this training element. There is this, I would say, connection element. So ability to really, hear the stories, to connect with the experts, to present before the experts and hear their feedback. And so it's always important to listen, I would say, very, very carefully to what everybody else is saying as well. And I would say overall, altogether, it is equally important to have a good time. And what you are seeing on the slides, it is photos from last year's event. So this event, we are going to do it virtually, and I'm sure that it will be, almost the same experience. We have changed the structure a little bit to be able to recreate this experience, but it is really a chance to connect with the people in your team, and with the people, of course, with those citizens who will be taking part, with the experts who will be taking part, also I would say with the members of the jury, and to then create new solutions. And maybe I think for the last slide, which is the next, just a little more photos about the atmosphere from the last year. Last year we had eight teams. We had 3 different experts that explained, the different aspects of the issue that were tackled. There was a lot of creativity. So things like, getting together, putting things on a paper, or this year, so we will do it online, of course. Then, taking those first ideas to the end users and seeing or just listening to the end users and seeing what they think, then coming back and refining what you have based on this feedback. And then, of course, going before the jury, having to present what you prepared in a very, very short time. So we all know this is difficult. This is challenging, but it is also very, very exciting. And the winning team from the EIT Zagreb event went to the European finale last year. It ranked within the top 10. It was 8th out of all the teams that were presenting there. So very, very good result. But I would say it's not so much about this, just about the competition. It is really about the connection that you can make with your colleagues, with all the people from your team, for the people from the other teams, and also with the end users, and also with the jury, and I would say all the experts. So how to apply? I mean, today it's really a teaser event of sorts to give you a feel how the idea would also be. You would need to apply again to participate in the Innovation Day, which is starting in the first week of November, and we will give you more information about this structure of the Innovation Days. But we will send you an email. So we will send you a follow-up email with a link where you can apply and then take part in this competition. And this would be all from me at this stage. So please feel free to ask if you have any questions.
Thank you, Vlatka, very much for your presentation. It was very informative. Regarding the questions, I do think that we'll have a lot of opportunity to ask questions in the Q&A session and at the second half of the event.
Yes,
but
I got a comment.
Yes,
so that's a fantastic program, and you students should just take full advantage of this. Compared to the the governmental or broad support that you get in the US, you guys should just be all over this, like totally all over it. It's super impressive. It's a fantastic opportunity. You just go for it.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know. So,
you just don't get this in the States.
This way.
All right, thank you.
So, thank you very much, Peter, for jumping in.
Like if I was there now, I'd be joining it. And Charles and I'd be like so all over this.
So I hope everybody's listening. What Peter just said, just apply for the i-Days.
Great. Yeah, so now is maybe the best time to introduce Peter Pfanner and Charles Frisbiea. When I was on my fellowship in Chicago, I had the opportunity to meet them both at their innovation center from the University of Illinois at Chicago. And what I saw there was also like a great example, at least from my point of view, how innovation should be done. They have interdisciplinary teams which are working on creating new solutions. So I'm very happy that we have now opportunity to meet them virtually in person and to hear the story about MedLab and University of Illinois at Chicago Innovation Center. I just have to mention that Peter, as I remember, has some also connection to Croatia, so maybe he will
Yes.
be willing to share that.
Yes. So should we start now, Mira?
Yeah, welcome.
So thank you. How we're going to do this, I'm going to just do a couple of opening slides. Charles will talk about MedLab.
If you want.
Oh. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay.
And I'll just start with my connection to Croatia. My wife is a graduate of the University of Zagreb in architecture. She is from Rijeka. We have spent every summer, except this past one, on RAB for the last 30 years or something. And we're actually looking at land in Istria now to purchase. So, yes, we have a strong connection to Croatia. And we've started speaking Croatian at home now. Our son is learning Croatian at university. So I'm going to start just a few minutes, then hand over to Charles. I am director of the Innovation Center and faculty in the College of Medicine and Urology Department and Industrial Design and in Bioengineering. Professor Frisbiea is faculty in the College of Business and also the Department of Urology in the College of Medicine. And this is quite typical at our university. People have multiple appointments. This is to help drive interdisciplinary collaboration across the university. So the University of Illinois Chicago, UIC, is a tier 1 research university, which means it has a large research enterprise. And it also has a very diverse student population. And you'll see with a couple of photos you'll see here later. And those two things are not usually found together. So we're quite unique in that sense. We're also an urban university. And those of you who know American educational system, a lot of universities are not in that urban setting. Our most similar institution would probably be UCLA, which is in the city. So you can see there, that's our campus. And we're really, actually that's taken quite close from our building. You can see the city of Chicago right there. We have, as a university mission, to foster cultural diversity. We're a Latino serving institution, which means 25% of our student population Latinos. And it's super diverse at UIC, students from around the world and all across the states. And even within Chicago is a very diverse population. We have, it says there 33,518 students enrolled. and our enrollment actually has gone up slightly in COVID times, believe it or not. So we're at like 34,000 students. Everything's online now, pretty much. Charles actually goes to campus every day. I go there once a week, maybe, for certain meetings. Next slide. So we're at the Innovation Center. We have an educational mission as well at the Innovation Center. So we teach innovation tools, methods, and processes, and we innovate. So we have students innovating at the same time they are learning about innovation, which is kind of the way to do it. It's kind of hands-on. At the Innovation Center, we work with both internal and external partners. We work with companies like Caterpillar and BMW and Order of St. Francis Healthcare, all sorts of different people, Baxter Healthcare. We also do a lot of work with our internal partners, and we are lucky to have a very large and strong medical school at UIC as well. And we work with multiple departments at the Innovation Center. We have an R&D lab with the urology department where Charles and I are faculty. We have an R&D lab with the ophthalmology department. And we also have a lab called Mad Lab, which is a general lab, which is slightly transforming in the way it works now, which Charles will cover. And we're in the process of planning R&D labs with the Department of Surgery, the Department of Neurosurgery as well. So we're progressively kind of bringing the College of Medicine into the colleges of engineering and design and business. They're our main partners. We spend a lot of time educating students in different ways. We run classes, we run labs, and we also do individual projects. We're also now starting to work on projects to help the university more broadly. So Charles is actually running a class now, which is looking at how we can improve online education, which is, it's slightly too late, but I don't think the online education part is going to go away anytime soon. Next. We're very, very deeply interdisciplinary. This was actually the start of the Innovation Center was about bringing the various different colleges together and departments together across the university. Universities are notoriously siloed. The whole academic world is built around super deep research in the narrowest possible field, and that often precludes collaboration. So we started the Innovation Center to cut across those colleges, and we do that with both faculty and students in different formats. And all of our labs and classes have students from across campus, and primarily from those disciplines, but often others as well. And I think we've, if you look at on paper what our job is, it's yes to run these labs and innovate here and do this and do that. But the unwritten job we have is actually cultural change. How to bring the university together in a culture of innovation. And that's not written down because you'd probably fail if you tried to measure that. But that's what we do. I think, we do a pretty good job on that. At any meeting you go to, there's always a doctor there and an engineer and a student. The other thing that's really interesting, it's not just interdisciplinary, it's also non-hierarchical in the way we work. You'll often see an undergraduate engineer working with a department head from, urology or something. We flatten things out very seriously. Also, we are really cross-cultural. Any one meeting there may be, or lab, there may be students from a dozen different countries, which is also it works the same way as working interdisciplinarily. You just get a different perspective. Someone says, oh, well, in India, we do it like this. It's like, okay, that's interesting. So that's very helpful for us as well. Next, Charles. The other thing we do is, we're not doing deep academic research. We're doing applied research and progressing to solution. So we respond to problems. We're not responding to, we have an academic interest in ABC. We work in response to a need, and that to us is what innovation is about. We're progressively progressing towards commercialization. We have a number of things commercialized, but what we're finding is we need to progress things further internally before we can get them out to the real world. So more and more and more, we're progressing more deeply. We're about to start what we're calling a healthcare application lab, so we can do software apps for what we need at UIC, and also ideally commercialize some of these ideas. So we're kind of constantly expanding our scope here. I think next, Charles, and I think I'm handing to Charles now. Yes. Mm-hmm. And again, Charles Frisbiea, professor from the College of Business, also at the Innovation Center and in the College of Medicine. And interestingly, Charles was a student at UIC. He did his master's MBA at UIC, and he worked in the MAD lab, which is the lab he's going to talk about. And he never left. We hired him now at the university. And this is actually quite common for us. We have a lot of students that kind of never left, which is great because we get continuity, and they also understand the dynamic of the university well. Okay, thank you, Charles.
All right, thank you, Peter. So like Peter mentioned, the Innovation Center is where we do all our work, formerly physically. Now, of course, we just do everything or most things remotely. But these are some pictures that Innovation Center, and these are some pictures of students working. So, the idea here is that we have faculty in classes or labs that lead the work and guide the students. It's a little more prescriptive in the labs and the class, but that the students are doing all the work. And in classes, students take them for credit. So, we have every year classes that are sponsored by, like Peter mentioned, the provost of UIC, usually Order of St. Francis Healthcare, usually a technology lab. And then we have our internal labs that are sponsored by different entities. And the one I'm going to be talking about is one that we run in conjunction with the College of Medicine, which is the MAD lab. So the MAD lab is kind of, as Peter said, expanding things a little bit, stretching it. But the general way that we work now is that we have departmental labs and then the MAD lab, the device accelerator, which leads to commercialization. So our kind of starting process here is the College of Medicine, where there are lots of clinicians who encounter problems every day, right, in their practice. And they say, I wish I had X. So what we're trying to do with, hopefully, potentially every department of medicine eventually is create these departmental labs. So these are around getting the ideas out of medical practice and building lo-fi concepts. So, that's just finding out what the problem is, building a concept, and then we have good projects go into this medical device accelerator where we really build higher fidelity prototypes and do more testing. And then from there, those ideas get pitched to our industry partners for future development. So one of the key things here is that we're always evaluating every project, because not every project's a good project. And even after maybe you've done a project in, let's say, the urology lab, you might come to the conclusion of, this just isn't really that good, so we kill it. And that's really an important part of the process, because if you aren't very real and very stringent about what good projects are, what you end up with is just this huge clutter of projects that aren't that good. And then when you go to show your portfolio to industry partners, it's not impressive. So people, Peter mentioned this, I'll talk about it again, is that true interdisciplinarity is one of the core focuses of our lab. So in the MAD lab, we always have a mix of business, design, and engineering and medical students. And even within engineering, we have a mix of bioengineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, computer science. So that it's, it's really important to have a whole lot of different types of people. Another thing that usually ends up happening is that people themselves end up being interdisciplinary. So, I'm sorry, 1 second. Alexa, turn off the music. My personal assistant decided that one of the things that I was saying was to start playing very loud music. I'm not sure how it got that from my lecture, but it did. So my apologies. That a lot of times what will end up happening is someone who will have an undergraduate degree in engineering will come back for a graduate degree in design, or someone who has an undergraduate degree in business will come back for a graduate degree in engineering, so that even the people themselves are interdisciplinary, not just the lab. So this is our overall process, where we have these 5 kind of phases that go from problem definition, research validation, prototyping, benchtop testing, and a minimum viable prototype. And one of the key things about this process is that it's not really linear like this. It's iterative, so that you definitely define a problem and start doing some research, but then when you're prototyping, you're still researching, and when you prototype and you test and you prototype and you test. So a lot of times you'll go back and forth between these phases a little bit, as opposed to going through a really clean linear process. So problem definition. This is really important to get any project started, because you always end up with someone, a clinician, whoever it is, who knows they have a problem, right? This is a problem, I know it. And it's, well, what's the problem? Well, we have a hard time moving patients, and then when we move patients, we have a hard time getting into the operating room, and then in the operating room, this happens. And then when they go back to their bed, this happens. And it's really difficult to solve for everything at once, right? We have an Italian design professor at the Innovation Center who says, you're trying to solve world peace. So when you're honing into the problem that you're going to be solving, it's really important to say, who are you designing for? Who's using this? What's the specific use case? What conditions do patients have? What outcome are you trying to get? If you have a really well-scoped problem, that will help you attack a really specific solution. And we always say it's good to go from specific to broad. So if you're solving for something very specific, maybe it'll work for other things. Like, that could be fine, but make sure you're solving for one problem first, because if you're trying to solve for 5 things at once, it's probably not going to work. Oop. So the second thing is research validation. So, like I said, it's really, the first step is really defining that problem, but the second step is really confirming that it is a real and salient problem. So like I said, you'll have a doctor who says, I have encountered this every day of my practice for 20 years. It's a real problem, right? And for them it is. But then you have to say, okay, let's confirm that with the outside. Let's talk to more doctors. Let's do a literature review to see if there's anything out there that's confirming this. And then let's also look at the current solutions, because a lot of times there are, in the US, patents out there that are precluding you from doing anything. A lot of times there are different solutions that maybe aren't quite on the market yet, or aren't, in the region you are. So it's really important to understand that, yes, this is a problem. We verified it with other people. We've looked at the literature, and also the current solutions don't work. And that's our opportunity, right? The flip side of the failures of the current solution is that's where we can innovate to create a new product. So prototyping. This is, again, one of those key iterative things of, okay, I know what my problem is, and I've validated, and what's the solution? So, it's starting from just sketching, from just drawing pictures. And now with 3D printing, it's so great. You draw a picture, then you can 3D print it, and you just keep doing that for every idea you have. It's really funny. I'll say, like, to the students in our lab, oh, that's a really good idea. Can you have that 3D print done by next week in SolidWorks? And they'll say, oh, I just did it while you were talking. Like, I just made it. Let's go print it right now. So it's really, that level of capability that we have now is really exciting. So, when you're thinking about prototyping, the most helpful thing to do is not think, how can I make the most complete prototype right away? It's, what do I need to learn first? Like, what's the first thing I need to test if I can do with this concept, and then create the simplest thing you can. So benchtop testing, so benchtop testing is just, I think, kind of a term meaning that we're not actually getting in, although this is an eyeball, we're not actually getting in like a wet lab and doing in vivo studies with animals. We're really just testing a concept to see if it can work. And this really goes hand in hand with prototyping quickly and testing quickly, right? If you take a really long time to build a really nice high fidelity prototype and then you test it and it doesn't work, you've wasted a ton of time, right? Or you want to make the simplest thing you can and do the simplest test you can to see if you can validate that a little bit. So like the picture I have here is something that we actually did get into a pig eye and try to test if it could bisect tissues. But I remember the thing I don't have here is the first thing we did for this project is we literally took 2 pieces of cardboard and we glued them together with, we call it like Elmer's glue, like white glue. And then we just took an early prototype and saw, like, well, does this push these apart? Does this work in this very basic way? I think that's super important when you're working on these concepts, is prototype quickly, test simply. And then, yeah, eventually you're gonna work your way up to where you need some kind of pig eye or tissue, fake tissue to test on. But really, it starts simply and build up from there, because that's how you're going to learn how things work, and you're going to be able to refine your prototype so that when you're getting into this part, you have a pretty good idea that it's going to work, as opposed to thinking, I'm not sure. So then our last part is the minimum viable product. So this is where our process ends, where we want to take something that we've tested and we have some data that, yes, this is, this works, right? And then it moves on. So, I'm sure it's similar in Europe and the US, then you have to go on and do, in vivo animal studies, and then you have to get more money and do human studies and all that stuff. But that's not really where we live. What we want to do is we want to take a minimum viable prototype. We want to have some data that it works, and then we want to hand it off to a commercialization partner. So part of that is, that we've learned over the years is it's really important to not just have a really cool prototype, it's really important to have really great documentation, right? So we have a really good prototype, we'll have a really good video of how that prototype works, and we put together a really slick pitch deck that we can show to anyone at any time. And that's how you really get projects out. You have something that works, and you have something that shows how it works and why it could be valuable. And that's how things keep. Okay, I think I'm about at my time, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Charles. Thank you very much, Peter. This was very, I would say, inspiring and well-structured presentation about the process. Is there any question from the audience?
So there is a hand raised by Vlatka, I see.
Okay. Yep, Vlatka, go.
I don't want to go first, but okay. So yeah, thank you for this really wonderful overview of what is happening, and very, very important, to stress this interdisciplinarity and trying to bridge different disciplines and here as well, of course, we do have this deep science and people really, narrowing into one field, and this is the nature of the work. So I would say, I'm very grateful that you stress this prototype quickly, because it especially when you are talking health, people get really, I would say, a little maybe ahead, and they'll start talking about in vitro, in vivo, and really about lots of resources that are needed for that. And this idea that you can do something with cardboard and just to test, it's very important. My question to you is when the projects move from the lab or to the center and further on, does then the new team take them on, or do some people from the original team who worked on the lab, they continue to work with a certain project? Can you explain that a little bit?
So typically, the way things work is that early on, a clinician will have a project that they're working on, and then we'll have a team of students develop it into something low. When that moves on from the departmental lab, like let's say urology to med lab, it's typically a new team, and I think it's actually pretty helpful because it's really great to have a fresh pair of eyes look at this and say, okay, this is, we go through that process again. Is this a real problem? Is this the best solution? And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. And you can come up with something better.
That's a pretty pertinent question, because we've had situations where, like students graduate and leave. I remember the first year we were running the Mad Lab, it happened that all the students graduated on the same day. So we went from a fully functioning lab to an empty lab on one day, which was okay, it wasn't, we were new at this. So, but now we're a little bit, more sophisticated. We have, undergrad and grad students all on different schedules, so that doesn't happen. And now we have the ability to hire students after they graduate so they can stay on as well. So yes, it's a little bit difficult, but yeah, switching teams is okay because as long as the knowledge transfers, it's fine.
And you definitely get this new perspective, which is important.
Get a new
as well.
perspective. And we've done that. We've someone spent a year on a project, we decide, no, it's there's a patent there, and it's not viable.
Yeah.
Great. Great. One more question from my side. Thank you, Vlatka. We are waiting if there are some students' questions also, but I would like to ask if you can just give us a little bit more insight. How do you engage undergraduate and graduate students in your work? So what are the options? How do they get involved?
So Charles, you want to answer that?
Sure. Yeah. So for our classes, they are typically, and we call them senior level, but senior year, the final year of school, typically classes you can take. And those are open to, depending on the professors, usually a mix of engineering, design, business, public health. So that's one way to engage students. The other way we engage students is by hiring them for paid work in our innovation labs. And that's just like any other job where we'll hopefully, we'll have a pool of students we know from classes, but we'll put out job postings, we interview students, and then we hire the ones that we like.
Great.
There's one addition to that. So typically the students are not working on their own ideas. They're working on ideas that come out of the College of Medicine or from a corporate entity. This next year, we'll be starting a class where the students will work in interdisciplinary teams on their own ideas. So it's more of an entrepreneurial development class to support students working on their own ideas. They may be corralled into a certain, their medical ideas or whatever, a certain area. But so that will support entrepreneurship a little bit better.
Great. So I don't see any question coming from students. I just can comment once again that when I was visiting your center and then I was participating at one of the meetings at MedLab, I liked the interdisciplinary approach. So there were students from engineering, computer science, medical science, and I thought, wow, this is something that we need also at the university in Zagreb. And I was very happy that you accepted to give this talk. I think it was very useful. It was very useful for students also participating in this innovation days because they will now see that some other more successful countries, universities are having interdisciplinary approach to solving problems in healthcare. So I think you did a great job. Thank you very much for taking the time this early in the morning. I know, and thank you for joining us. I will get back to you later after the event.
Very
so
good.
Let's keep in touch, and thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Yep.
Evo, mi ćemo nastaviti naše događanje na hrvatskom. Imamo još nekoliko stvari na našem rasporedu, ne manje interesantnih. A ono što mi bih ja predložio da nastavimo je naša ovogodišnja tema Innovation Day-a. A to ćemo napraviti kroz ideation workshop, odnosno jedan workshop kreativnosti. I nisam siguran koliko vas je do sada imalo prilike sudjelovati na sličnim događanjima i primjenjivati možda neke alate koje uistinu možemo primijeniti da bismo potaknuli kreativnost i stvaranje novih ideja. Dakle, puno puta smo danas čuli već priču o inovacijama i Charles i Peter su nam govorili o tome kako inoviraju, ali ono što je važno znati je da inoviranje je isto tako postupak i može ga se primijeniti, može ga se naučiti. Pa ono što bih ja htio da mi danas naučimo među ostalim jednu novu metodu kako osmišljati nove ideje. Ovogodišnji izazov Innovation Daysa, EIT Healtha, je sljedeći. Kako bismo mogli potaknuti zdraviji način života kod različitih dobnih skupina. Dakle, ovo će biti izazov koji ćemo rješavati kroz nadolazeći Innovation Day, a danas ćemo kroz primjenu ovog jednostavnog, vrlo moćnog alata doći na neke osnovne ideje koje bismo mogli rješavati kroz Innovation Day. Naš današnji alat zove se razmišljanje o suprotnostima. Ja ću vas kratko uvesti u njegovu primjenu, a ono što ćete ubrzo vidjeti da je vrlo, vrlo jednostavan, zaista jednostavan, a ono što nam daje nam radikalne ideje. Dakle, radikalno drugačije, kreativne ideje koje kasnije onda naravno možemo primjenjivati. Kad razmišljamo o idejama i kad smo kreativni, onda nismo analitični. Dakle, ne pokušavamo analizirati da li su te ideje dobre, da li su one fizibilne, odnosno da li se može realizirati, nego isključivo pokušavamo biti što kreativniji, pa tako ćemo danas također razmišljati samo s tom polovicom mozga. Kad govorimo o ovom alatu, prvo što radimo, prvi korak od ukupno 3 koraka je da postavljamo pretpostavke. Dakle, opisat ćemo vaše pretpostavke o izazovu koji smo malo prije vidjeli. Nakon toga definiramo suprotnosti, znači što je potpuno suprotno od onoga što smo mi sada pretpostavili. I treće, opisujemo novu uslugu, proizvod ili unapređenje koje temeljimo na suprotnosti. Dakle, razmišljamo o njima i kako one uistinu utiču na sam izazov i na moguće rješenja. Sad možda ovo zvuči malo apstraktno, pa ćemo proći kroz jedan primjer, ali prije toga da vidimo koji će biti zadatak. Dakle, podijelit ćemo se ponovo u breakout sobe, napravit ćemo male timove i u tim timovima ćemo koristiti zajednički Google Spreadsheet. Taj Google Spreadsheet će koristiti svima vama za bilješke onoga što radimo kad stvaramo ove nove ideje. Svaka soba imati će svoj predložak za suprotno razmišljanje i vidjet ćete da je broj sobe jednak broju vašeg sheeta. Dakle, dobit ćete u chat link na taj sheet i kad pristupite na njega, bit će dole 10-ak sheetova i ona soba koju se nalazite, to je vaš sheet. S tim ćemo još pričekati dok ne vidimo ovaj primjer. Dakle, već smo naveli da naš izazov za Innovation Days je kako bismo mogli potaknuti zdraviji način života kod različitih dobnih skupina. Da vidimo primjer. Dakle, ja sam se malo poigrao i evo primijenio sam ovaj alat i došao sam na neke ideje i sad ćete vidjeti kako. Dakle, prvo definirao sam pretpostavke. Jedna pretpostavka je da starije osobe brinu za zdravlje jer žele što duže živjeti. Moja druga pretpostavka je da mladi žele biti zdravi da bi bili ljepši. Pa evo, na osnovu ove dvije pretpostavke ja sam definirao neke suprotnosti. Dakle, što je sasvim suprotno onome što sam ja pretpostavio o našem izazovu. Pa evo, kod prve pretpostavke suprotnost bi bila da starije osobe ne žele duže živjeti jer im je smanjena kvaliteta života. S druge strane, kod mladih smatram da možda sasvim suprotno je da mladi ne žele biti zdravi jer je sasvim cool živjeti nezdravo, odnosno ne trebaju biti zdravi da bi bili lijepi. Evo, to je jako suprotno od onoga što sam ja u početku pretpostavio. I treća stvar su naše rješenja. Dakle, opisat ćemo jednu novu uslugu, proizvod ili unapređenje upravo na temelju ovih suprotnosti. Pa da vidimo. Evo, prvo rješenje bi moglo biti jedan program u kojem se starije osobe nagrađuju zato što brinu o svojem zdravlju i na tim nagradama im u stvari povećavamo kvalitetu njihovog života. Dakle, ovo je jedna vrlo osnovna ideja, ali ju je moguće razviti na cijeli niz načina. Kod drugog primjera, gdje imamo mlade kažem da bi možda mogli napraviti društvenu mrežu na kojoj će mladi promovirati svoj zdravi način života i angažirat ćemo poznate osobe, nazovimo ih influencerima, koji će im onda to komplementirati i time će ih učiniti više cool nego što bi bili da žive nezdravo. Evo, to su moje dvije kreativne ideje temeljem mojih suprotnosti. Naravno, ja ih sad ne analiziram da li su one izvedive i na koji način, zato što to ćemo tek raditi nekada kasnije u koraku koji bi možda slijedio. Evo još jednom da vidimo koji je to timski zadatak. Znači dijelimo se u breakout sobe, dobit ćemo Google Sheet koji će vam Miro postati link sada u chat i svaka soba će dobiti svoj predložak za suprotno razmišljanje, te je broj sobe jednak vašem broju sheeta. Sobe ćemo napraviti opet random i naći ćemo se u sobi s nekime tko je možda, evo, prvi put ga vidimo i prvi put ga upoznajemo, ali upravo u tome je čar ovoga da pokušamo brzinski ovim multidisciplinarnim timovima, a upravo smo čuli koliko je to važno, doći na kreativne ideje za naš izazov. Da li ima pitanja možda? Ako ima pitanja možete se javiti ili pisati u chat, sve je otvoreno. Nema pitanja? Onda ćemo napraviti 7 soba. Može? Možda bi mogli proći po sobama, poslati link ponovo. Ne, neću.
Ja ne mogu ići kroz sobe, jer nemam ovaj... Imam. Breakout rooms. Imam opciju join breakout room, a nemam ga promijeni.
Ne, join, aha.
Tak, ja odem sad u breakout room, a onda neću više moći ići u neku drugu. Tako da ti moraš ići kroz sobe.
Onda dobro.
I kopirati. Evo idem ja u prvu sobu.
Ej, Kronoslav. Jel se čujemo?
Da, čujemo se.
Da, sad vidim. Ja sam bio po ovim sobama, malo razgovarao sa drugima. Pa link vam je bio u chatu, niste skužili valjda u chatu, jedno 3-4, evo točno iznad tu gore imaš linkove, gdje si pisao, pisao sam im privatno.
Da, pisao sam vam privatno, a otišao sam u chat sa svima i nije mi nigdje pisalo, ovdje u ovom mailu, tako? Nije u breakout room, je li bilo u breakout roomu ili u ovom mailu?
Ne, baš svugdje, tu je bilo, da.
Da, mislim, vidio sam da se poslalo. I onda sam mislio da će to biti u breakout roomu i onda sam ušao u breakout room i nije ga bilo.
Bilo je tamo, ima, da.
A ne znam, mislim možda zato što smo na mobitelu, ja i Darija smo na mobitelu na Zoomu, pa nam se nije nigdje prikazalo i onda kad smo izašli oboje u ovaj main, isto ni tu nije bilo nigdje linka i da, nismo ništa našli tako da nije bilo nikoga da mu se javimo, tako da mislim, ne znam šta bi sad.
Ništa, evo sad ćemo...
Mi je imala problema i moja grupa, ali ja sam ga srećom kopirao prije, pa sam im svima poslao.
Evo, pomalo se vraćamo. Da, evo, moje isprike svima za link, iako je link Google Sheet bio otvoren za sve, valjda kad je puno ljudi na valu, nešto se promijenilo. Uglavnom, evo, ipak smo svi na kraju uspjeli pristupiti. Vidim da vas je većina napisala nekih novih ideja i da ste se dobro snašli. Evo, svi ste popunili u stvari, sjajno. Pa ono što bi bilo, evo, definitivno lijepo za čut, da vidimo kako smo različiti u kreativnom razmišljanju, pa da podijelimo one ideje na koje ste došli. Ima li dobrovoljac iz tima 1 ili sobe 1? Ili dobrovoljka?
Ima Iskra.
Ima
Iskra. Može mi Jana isto pomoći.
Evo Iskra, ajde.
Aha, hoćemo podijeliti ekran ili?
Pa ne morate, možete pročitati kakve su to vaše kreativne ideje danas.
Može, samo sekundu.
Čak 3 ste ih napisali, ili 4, wow.
Ne, 3 su.
Uh-huh.
Znači ovako, naša prva pretpostavka je bila...
Samo rješenja.
Aha, ok.
Uh-huh.
Znači, prvo naše rješenje je bila igrica koja bi educirala mlade o zdravlju i važnosti tjelovježbe, te koja bi maknula sve predrasude o tome kako tjelovježba možda troši tijelo u mladosti.
Mm-hmm. Dobro.
Drugo je bilo organizirati natjecanje gdje bi se mladi natjecali u pripremi zdrave hrane, a i finih jela. Sad, to je više bilo za zdravu hranu, da se ne jede fast food i tako.
Super.
Znači, kasnije bi ta jela postojala kao u restoranima i bilo bi interesantno. I treća je bila platforma na kojoj se roditelji dogovaraju da, znači, neki roditelji čuvaju djecu, a drugi roditelji imaju priliku vježbati, ili se organiziraju vježbe za roditelje i djecu zajedno.
Nice, ok, svaka čast, bravo. Soba broj 2, tim broj 2. Ivana Babić, Kristina Dumančić, Ružica i Platforma. Evo.
Naše prvo rješenje je bilo da se u sklopu, znači, nekih vrtićkih skupina naprave neke, kao što u osnovnim školama imate boravak nakon škole, da bi bilo nešto poput toga u tim radionicama gdje bi dolazile stručne osobe i djecu bi onda educiralo o zdravom načinu života. Znači oni bi se zapravo, ajmo reći, igrali s hranom, kako šta bi trebalo to izgledati, kako da vježbaju, uglavnom da se djeca od malih nogu educiraju o zdravoj hrani i zdravom načinu života. Ili da se roditeljima da neki gotov alat u stilu kao neke aplikacije, programa sa nekim brzim receptima, sa nečim da s obzirom da je bila naša kao problem da roditelji nemaju vremena. A drugo rješenje je bilo da bi se otvorila neka online platforma na kojoj bi bilo, ajmo reći, kolektivno vježbanje. Imamo nekog trenera, nekoga ili influencera kojeg si dosta ljudi prati i on vodi te neke određene treninge i onda sudjelovanje na svakom treningu, skupljaju se određeni bodovi i onda kada se dođe do određenog broja bodova, ti mogu se zamijeniti za, ne znam, popuste za kozmetiku, odjeću, obuću i slično.
Super.
Eto.
Bravo. Soba 3. Dora, Ana, Emanuel, Siniša.
Ajde, ja ću kad se drugi ne javljaju. Emanuel je, znači, mi smo pričali samo o problemu pretjeranog unosa soli i neka od naših rješenja su edukacija starije populacije za postojanje alternativa običnoj soli, a to su kalijeve soli koje također poboljšavaju okus. Što se tiče dječje populacije, išli bi na educiranje razrednika koji bi onda kroz satove razrednika i kroz roditeljske sastanke ujedno informirali, odnosno prenijeli to znanje i na djecu i na roditelje. Potom bi promijenili prehranu u školskim menzama, tako da ona sadrži manje soli. Informirali bi i da slatkiši također sadrže dosta soli, da se to zamijenimo sa zdravim verzijama. Lobirali bi za zakonodavne okvire, odnosno postavljanje zakonodavnih okvira u kojima se ograničava maksimalna količina soli koja smije biti sadržana u određenim namirnicama, odnosno prerađenim proizvodima i sa tim ciljem bi lobirali prema industriji da oni u konačnici smanje količinu soli u prerađenim proizvodima.
Dobro, hvala vam. Znači, vi ste se jako fokusirali na sol i vidite na noćna mora za solane, ali imate dobar point, sviđa mi se. Soba broj 4, Lorena, Antonija, Katarina.
Hoću ja onda ili će ne?
Izvoli.
Dakle, nama isto fokus bio vježbanje, budući da danas u Hrvatskoj isto dosta je i djece i ljudi koji su dakle imaju prekomjernu tjelesnu težinu i generalno smo onako u Europi u vrhu po tim nekim lošim navikama. Uglavnom trebalo bi osvijestiti mlade o važnosti zdravlja i budući da su svi danas na mobitelima, dobra bi opcija bila nekakva aplikacija koja će imati dosta kao recimo edukativni dio i dio koji će dakle pokazivati što je dobro za raditi, što bi se moglo. Također smo spomenuli projekte koji se mogu provoditi u školama, koji će poticati dakle zdravlje i dobre navike, ili recimo organizacija nekakvih natjecanja u kojima bi se što više mladih moglo uključiti i na taj način onako kroz neku dobru energiju i entuzijazam možda zavoljeti te neke dobre navike kao vježbanje. A također nama druga stvar bila, dakle kod djece baš kako da zavole vježbanje. Uglavnom, dakle, dokazano je da kad se djeci pokažu dakle različit izbor sportova, da postoji veća vjerojatnost da će im se nešto od toga svidjeti i da će dakle zapravo možda i nastaviti sa takvom navikom, tako da tu bi trebalo više ići dakle na edukaciju roditelja, tako da možda od vrtića onako dakle educirati roditelje na važnost dakle da se njihova djeca bave sportom. Ili recimo možda kroz organizacije nekih druženja sa sportašima. Pa onda...
Dobro, hvala puno. Ekipa broj 6, Nora, Hana, Tomislav, vi ste bili vrlo egzaktni.
Evo mogu ja onda pričati.
Može.
Naš kolega Tomislav on je rekao da se ljudi baš ne pouzdaju u zdravstveni sustav, pa smo mi rekli kao rješenje da bi tu trebale biti besplatne edukacije građanstva koje obnašaju, znači koje zapravo educiraju ljude pa da oni sami zaključe šta je dobro, šta nije dobro. Mm-hmm. Onda smo još rekli da ljudi žive ubrzanim načinom života i da nemaju baš vremena sad zdravo se hraniti. I onda smo rekli da bi tu trebalo biti neke gotove opcije, neke zdrave hrane, to je zdrave, brze hrane.
Odlično. Hvala vam. Kratko i jasno. Super. I tim broj 7, soba broj 7, Damir i Marta. Jeste s nama? Marta vidim da je tu, Damira isto vidim.
Jesmo, tu smo.
Evo je, Marta, izvoli sam kratko reći.
Može, samo imat ću malo smetnje, mama je trenutno na telefonu.
Ne čujemo je.
Dobro. Uglavnom, prva ideja nam je zapravo bila kako su sve više dostupnije nezdrava hrana i zapravo je ta nezdrava hrana je jeftinija od zdrave i mislim prvo je kao bilo da se razvije neka aplikacija koja bi zapravo obavještavala kupce kada je zapravo zdrava hrana na popustu i gdje se ta zdrava hrana može nabaviti. A zapravo druga kao neka što smo zamislili je zapravo također opet o vježbanju kako mladi sve više vremena provode online, sve manje u prirodi, da se napravi aplikacija zapravo koja bi mlade poticala da čim više vremena budu u prirodi i da se bave nekom tjelesnom aktivnosti kroz neko skupljanje poena ili tak nešto.
Super. Hvala vam puno. Evo, mislim da smo prošli sve sobe, odnosno sve timove. Što da vam kažem, osim toga da ste u 15 minuta uspjeli dati 15 izvrsnih, vrlo dobrih, odličnih rješenja i ideja za naš ovogodišnji Innovation Day izazov. Ne samo što ste uspjeli izazov raščlaniti na 15 različitih problema, nego ste ponudili rješenja. Naravno, sad ono što bi slijedilo su koraci u kojima moramo rafinirati te ideje, razmisliti o tome koliko su one izvedive, na koji način, koje stvari možda na njima doraditi i kako s njima nekog dana izaći na tržište ili prikupiti što veći broj korisnika. Pa evo, upravo za tu suštinu stvari služi Innovation Day, koji se ove godine odvija online, što ne znači da će biti manje dobar, bit će odličan. A prije nego što vam ja ukratko objasnim kako će izgledati ove godine Innovation Day, pokazao bi vam jedan video kako je to izgledalo prošle godine. Evo, nadam se da vidite moj ekran.
Vidimo, ali ne čujemo.
Sad ćemo i to ispraviti. Sad je čujete.
Sad je okej.
Nalazimo se u Zagrebačkom inovacijskom centru gdje smo danas na jednom sjajnom događanju u organizaciji Zagrebačkog sveučilišta. Događanje se zove Innovation Day.
Innovation Day je studentsko natjecanje gdje studenti formiraju interdisciplinarne timove i dolaze do rješenja na stvarne potrebe korisnika u zdravstvenom sustavu.
Studiram kineziologiju.
Strojarstvo. Sestrinstvo.
Medicina.
Kineziologija.
Kineziologija.
Medicina i fer.
Budući da je tema aktivno i zdravo starenje, ovaj put smo doveli umirovljenike iz umirovljeničkih domova koji onda mogu ispričati svoju priču.
Ovdje nam je cilj identificirati probleme ovih umirovljenika te raditi na rješavanju tih istih problema.
Ja sam njima savjetovala da razgovaraju sa bakama i dedama, pokazati da i treća životna dob ima nešto lijepo, da ulože vreme, jer sve što uložiš sada, višestruko će ti se vratiti.
Mi smo se zapravo fokusirali više na osobe sa demencijom i osobe koje njoj pomažu se opterećuju kroz svakodnevni život i njima ćemo mi pokušati olakšati. Kako njima olakšamo, tako olakšamo i osobi sa demencijom.
Mislite da ćete pobijediti?
Tako je. Idemo u Pariz.
Nećeš, ja idem.
U Pariz osvaja tim
As.
Skroz smo iznenađeni, danas smo se evo svi upoznali, tako se potrefilo da smo svi različitih područja i stvarno ovo nismo očekivali.
Idemo u Pariz.
Tako je to bilo prošle godine, prije točno godinu dana. A ove godine čeka nas ništa manje uzbudljivi Innovation Day. I evo, kao što možete vidjeti na ovom jednostavnom timelineu, danas smo ovdje 22.10. i upoznajemo vas s time što nas očekuje na Innovation Dayu, koji će krenuti 2.11. u ponedjeljak. S obzirom da je on ove godine online, predvidjeli smo ga razdijeliti u 4 dana, 4 poslijepodneva, da bismo na jedan jednostavan, a opet zanimljiv način uspjeli proći svu onu tematiku i sadržaje koji su nam potrebni da uspješno prezentiramo vaše ideje na onom pitchu 4. danu kada pred žirijem trebate pokazati što ste napravili. Prvi dan u principu ćemo analizirati izazov, dovest ćemo 3 stručnjaka iz područja koji će nam pomoći kako da razumijemo bolje ovaj naš izazov, kako bismo mogli potaknuti zdravi način života kod različitih dobnih skupina. Drugi dan ćemo razgovarati o tome koji su problemi koje ste vi identificirali unutar ovog izazova i kako biste došli do njihovih rješenja. Treći dan razgovarati ćemo o tome kako oko tih ideja i rješenja stvoriti poslovne modele da ih učine održivima i 4. dan ćemo pripremati pitch i pred stručnim žirijem pokazati što ste napravili kroz ovogodišnji Innovation Day. Još jedanput, evo, to izgleda upravo ovako. Jučer je izašla jedna interesantna studija od strane World Economic Foruma koja pokazuje top 10 vještina koje će biti ključne 2025. godine. Ja mislim da će dio vas taman tada biti u fazi završavanja ili će završiti studij na početku svojih karijera. I ono što bih naglasio je da je prva vještina koja se ovdje navodi je analytical thinking and innovation. Od ovih 10, 5 vještina je u području problem solvinga. Pa osim što ćete imati priliku kod sebe razvijati ove vještine, ono što vam Innovation Day nudi je i sudjelovanje na Winners eventu, dakle pristup na EIT Health Summit, stručno vodstvo i mentorska podrška od strane nas koji ćemo vas pripremati za Winners event. Također tu će biti poklon bonovi za najuspješnije timove, ali svi će učiti nove vještine u području inovacija, imati će pristup raznim resursima kroz EIT Health mrežu i alumni program. Za one koji žele razvijati svoj CV, tu će biti i certifikati o sudjelovanju. Pa evo, ja mislim da je to jako puno razloga za jedan interesantan tjedan i sasvim besplatno sudjelovanje na ovom događanju. Ono na što bih skrenuo pažnju je način prijave. Dakle, prijava se odvija centralizirano kroz EIT Health platformu i ono što bi kratko također pokazao je kako to izgleda. Miro će biti ljubazan da kopira link vama u chat. Dakle, kada dođete putem tog linka na tu stranicu od EIT Healtha, ovdje vidite Innovation Days 2020. i prvo što morate kliknuti je Register for this event. U momentu kad to napravite, otvorit će vam se popis svih događanja u sklopu ovogodišnje EIT Innovation Day inicijative i kada scrollate negdje pred kraj, sredinu, evo ovdje vidimo University of Zagreb i u principu ono što trebate napraviti je odabrati jednu kartu, dakle ona je besplatna, ne košta vas ništa, ali ovo je platforma kroz koju oni vrše registraciju i idemo tu proceed to registration, nakon čega ispunjavate svoje podatke potrebne za sudjelovanje. Nakon što ovo ispunite, imat ćete još jedan mali formular koji vas traži billing, iako je ovo sasvim besplatno, vjerojatno zbog ograničenja platforme na kojoj se vrši registracija, potrebno ispuniti još svoje ime, prezime i e-mail adresu u taj billing za izdavanje fakture koju dobivate automatski na mail, ali ponavljam, dakle ništa ne plaćate to sudjelovanje. Evo, time smo došli do kraja onoga što sam htio ispričati. Ukoliko netko iz EIT Health Huba Hrvatska ima nešto za dodati, da sam nešto zaboravio, rado bi da me nadopuni. Ako vi imate bilo kakvih pitanja, slobodno se javite, pišite u chat. Evo, sve je otvoreno.
Ja nemam ništa za dodati, jedino hvala apsolutno na predstavljanju. Ako neko ima pitanja, sad je trenutak. Trenutak je i kasnije mailom, ali sad je lakše kad smo svi zajedno.
Ja bih rekla, ako je moguće, da svi se trebate uključiti i nemojte se bojati možda zato što se nešto od ovog ne znate. Timovi će biti interdisciplinarni, znači neko drugi će u timu možda biti bolji u prezentaciji samog rješenja, neko će biti bolji, ono što smo na početku govorili, za dizajniranje proizvoda, tako da nemojte se bojati ako nešto od toga ne znate, odnosno ako ništa od toga ne znate. U ekipi ćete i sami doći na nekakve ideje i razviti sami sebe, evo tako nešto. Mislim da je ovo stvarno odlična prilika za sve vas da naučite odlične stvari. Evo.
Dobro, evo, ako za sad nema pitanja, otvorena su i pitanja putem maila, naknadno, pa ja bih onda rekao da smo za danas evo, predstavili sve što smo htjeli. Puno hvala svima na sudjelovanju. Još jednom čestitam svima što su sudjelovali u našem workshopu i-Daysanu. Mislim da je bilo sjajno, da ste imali zaista sjajne rezultate, a vjerujem da ste naučili jednu novu tehniku koju možete primijeniti u budućnosti na svom studiju, a možda i nekada u karijeri. Puno hvala na sudjelovanju, želim vam ugodno poslijepodne i nadam se da se vidimo na Innovation Day 2020 za malo manje od 2 tjedna. Uživajte, pozdrav!
Pozdrav svima!
Pozdrav, bog!
Bog.
Bog.